Hey friends, this week we are talking about Burnout the third time, and we get to play a game. Did we get to play the game of did E change his shirt between recordings, and is this just the same day and he's lying to you? Or is this actually another day? I think you probably have the answer. Welcome to Authority, friends. This is our final episode about burnout. And if you have climbed out of burnout to this point, and you are all the way through that, and you are ready to look at your systems and evaluate how do we prevent this from happening again, this is the episode. If you are still feeling really burned out and exhausted, you can listen to this, but please do not do any of the things that I'm advocating for until you've had a chance to actually recover. Because if you do this stuff while you're in burnout, you are just going to exhaust yourself more. And you're also not going to make the best decisions that you could possibly be making right now. So if you're still deep in burnout, watch the first episode. If you are feeling a little bit better but not quite sure you're all the way there, episode 2. This one is just for that point when you've gotten through burnout and you are ready to really prevent yourself from going back in, because we're talking about burnout-proofing your life in so much as you can. Okay. And I don't want to make sure that I don't give anybody advice that's going to hurt them. So please understand that if you apply this advice and it hurts you, obviously it's the wrong advice for you. But this is how I've been personally dealing with this, and I've been going through this a lot. And the things I want to talk about are how we create systems and maintenance and what we do to prevent ourselves from getting to the point where we are burned out in the future. And that's what we're on today. Welcome to Authority. I am E. Prabilski. I am an author, editor, public speaker. I am on the board of directors for the Editorial Freelancers Association. I have written the books, How to Write the Damn Book and How to Publish the Damn Book. I have been in this industry for almost 20 years, which is a crazy thing to say. I know I don't look it. Nobody believes me, but I am in fact 40. I am a solidly middle-aged man. So please understand that I am not a baby, and even if I look like one. Today, we are getting into the last phases of our conversation about burnout. And as I mentioned before in the last episodes, burnout is in fact a systems problem. It is not an individual failing. Even if our society likes to try and pretend it's a morality thing that you needed to take a break or that the wheels came off your wagon. My cat is running around in the background, so if you hear him or see me giving strange looks to places in the room, he is at fault for this. He also may start screaming. We'll find out. But burnout is a systems problem. It means that whatever system you've created for yourself in order to do the thing you're trying to do is not working. For authors, it often looks like trying to do literally everything all at once and trying to write too many books at once and. Our society likes to glorify this rush, this hustle, this challenge, this hardship for whatever damn reason. But it likes to really try and put that as the ideal. And I could get back, and I'm a historian, I could blame the Puritans for this, and I kind of do. But it isn't real, it's not sustainable, it's not healthy. So we need to really look at what's healthy and how to develop systems that are going to be healthy and sustainable for you, not just things to push you, because it's not about not trying hard enough. If trying hard enough was the only thing that mattered, boy, I'd be in a different position than I am now, let me tell you. My life would look a lot different than it does. The work as we're out of burnout is in evaluating those systems that helped put us into burnout to begin with. The first thing I really want to talk about as we get into this is one of the things that really leads to burnout and really makes things harder is living aspirationally. A lot of people, myself included, have optimistic views of what we're going to be capable of. I want to be the person who has dinner on the table for my family at 5 p.m. when everybody gets home. I'm going to be the person who goes to the gym 4 days a week and gets buff. I'm going to be, and we're not. It's that New Year, January, new me kind of mentality that never really quite matches the truth of our situation if we're honest with ourselves. And we do it a lot. We buy things aspirationally, like, yes, I'm definitely going to use this weight set all the time. Collects dust for 900 years and never looks at it again. We do that to ourselves. We do it with our systems too. We create systems around this aspirational version of ourselves that is perfect and has their life together. And then the reality is we're us. That doesn't mean we're failures. That doesn't mean we are not good at what we're doing. That doesn't mean that we aren't trying hard enough. The system has failed us. And that is the thing that I really want to get across. We also have to be realistic about our abilities and our bandwidth. And for disabled people like me, that can be a painful thing. Like, it is not easy or comfortable to be like, yeah, no, I'm not the person who can do that. Sorry. My body does not do that anymore. And it sucks. It means having some really hard conversations with myself about what I can and can't do, realistically speaking. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold coming in. And it can be painful, but it is necessary. That's one of the reasons why I'm suggesting not to do it while you're burned out, because it's not going to be super comfortable. And if you're already miserable, you don't need to make yourself worse by doing this. The place that I really want to look at, sorry, I'm watching my cat prowl around on my desk and he's probably going to cause trouble. The thing I want to look at is we need to track our realities, not our ideals, and we also need to look at the accumulation of everything. Now, last week I promised you a My Little Pony story, so this week I'm going to tell it to you. I do not remember the exact episode, but the number of the episode, but I can tell you when it was. It was an episode of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, when Applejack is attempting to have a day off, and she spends her day trying to do things, and she goes to other people's places and fixes their things, and it's like, yeah, sometimes people just don't realize that the system is broken over time. And this entire time while she's having this lecture to her friends, she is feeding the pigs in the most inane way possible. And all of these different tasks involved in feeding the pigs, they all come together in this weird scenario of her at things and opening and closing gates 30 times, and the pigs don't care. They just want their food. And her friends are watching her like, what are you doing? You're giving us this lecture about making sure that your systems are, working and so on, but you're sitting here doing crazy stuff at the pigs, and they don't need that. They just want food. And her friends are like, hey, maybe you should do that to your own life and look at what you're doing and assess what you're up to. And they point out to her all these crazy steps. And the thing about those crazy steps that don't make a sense to anybody but her is that she's spending all that time solving problems she doesn't have anymore. At one point, the gate was really hard to open and close, so she opened and closed it a couple of times to try and loosen it up to make sure that she could get through it when she left, stuff like that. But she fixed the gate. It's no longer like that, but she's still doing the thing. And that's really one of the things that I want to talk about when we're burnout-proofing our systems. We, as humans, spend a bunch of time creating these systems, and if we don't take time to stop and assess them and be like, hey, do I really need to keep doing this exact way? Is this the right way for me? We end up creating these loops where we get stuck doing tasks we don't need to be doing and overwhelming ourselves, and then we add more and more, and then the whole thing goes to pieces. Take a look at your life and look at what has piled up. What tasks are stacked on top of each other? What is that collection of things you're doing? And are all of them necessary? Are all of them benefiting you somehow? Can you refine any of those? Can you maybe stop doing a couple of things? Are there ways that you can streamline any of that? But your first step is to analyze it. That is what I have been doing January and what I'm doing first quarter of this year, as I'm spending a bunch of time with my systems, analyzing all of them and looking at, how do I make this more efficient? How do I make this fit myself better and my needs? And how do I make sure that I'm not doing things that don't need doing all the time? For example, I'm batch creating my social media posts, my marketing social media posts, a month in advance. And I do that at the end of the month. I spend a day in Canva just hammering away, creating a bunch of marketing content, and then I release it. When I put out the podcasts, I get all of the media files and my little clips and stuff, and I refine those, and then I schedule those to get released also. So I don't need to put them up all myself, like every day. Doing that all at once means that I am now free to do other things, that I'm no longer dealing with that on my mental to-do list all the time. And the mental to-do list is a massive source of burnout, because if it feels like it's 500 miles long and you never make any progress, it's 500 miles long and you never make any progress, and it feels awful. We want to look at the helpful versus the habitual. We want to look at the things that we are doing that actually help us and matter versus things that we've just kind of fallen into. As I mentioned, some systems exist only because they solve problems we don't have anymore, or solve problems we maybe don't need to have if we readjusted some other stuff in our life. Doing this analysis is tiring and can be a little bit frustrating, because we're like, oh my god, I'm an idiot. I'm not an idiot, but like, I'm an idiot. However, the time to do this is before you're in crisis. If you're looking at all of these systems and are in burnout and are like, oh god, I can't, then don't. Wait until you're done. Wait until you've rested. Wait until you've given yourself space and time to recover. Because that is the first and most important step. Once you've done that, you can take a look at your systems and do it like one at a time. Because if you're like me and you look at all of the systems you have and start like shaking a little bit because you're like, oh, that's an awful lot. I can't deal with all of you at once. Don't. Understand that these systems exist in a space with each other. So anything you put in place has to be complementary or at least acceptable to the other systems. That is the thing you have to do. But it is actually doable once you're out of burnout. So take a system at a time and evaluate it. And I'm taking 3 months to do this, so you don't need to do it in an afternoon either. You just spend some time with it. But if you start now, or when you're out of burnout, if you're in burnout when you're listening to this, start when you're done. Start when you've healed and are feeling like you're ready to start being a person again. But if you do that now, before everything goes to pieces, it prevents it from going to pieces in the future. And that is how you burnout-proof your life. You also need to do things like maintain this system, because it's not going to maintain itself. At this point, I'm setting myself a goal to reevaluate my systems every month. And it doesn't have to be like the whole stack of them. I don't need to remake them. I just need to be like, hey, what's working, what's not? I've tried this thing for a month now. How do I feel about this? Do I feel good? Do I feel like I can continue? Or was this really difficult for me and it's not helping? I need to make that decision. And you can do that once per month. You can do it once per week. You can do it once per quarter. It kind of depends on the system and how quickly things are changing and how complicated the system is and when you have enough data, which I know is a lot of pieces. I'm sorry. But say you are trying to cook a new way, like I am. Like I mentioned, I'm doing things where I'm cooking in advance and freezing stuff and then just putting it all in my Instapot and walking away and poof, dinner. I have created dinner. That is a thing I'm doing for myself. That is a system that I've created as of 2 weeks ago. It's relatively new to me. I'm still learning this system. And with me still feeling this out, I have to figure out, is this working? Is the food any good? And so far it has been. You can't freeze and just defrost anything in the Instapot and have it be okay, because if it's like a delicate vegetable, the texture is wrong, because freezing is hard on vegetables. But if you're doing certain things like I'm making chili, well, I don't need the green peppers to be super crunchy. They're going in a chili. They're going to taste like chili. The whole thing is the point. I mean, texturally, there's some importance there. I know. But still, you can do stuff like soups and stews and so on like that, and it's working great for me. It may work less well in the summer when I'm not doing such heavy, hot soup-like stew food, because I'm not going to be wanting to eat that when it's 90 degrees out. But you get my point. Like, these are systems that I'm testing, and I'm getting feedback every week, and I'm figuring out if this works. Or if I'm looking at my client intake system, I'm testing it on clients that I take, and I'm putting them through this process where I get this information, and then I take that information and I use it going forward with the editing. I'm going to be testing a new process, and I can check out whether or not it works with each client individually. But that may not be every week, it may not be every month, it depends on when I get another client in who I'm doing intake with. I don't do intake on clients that I've worked with before, so I really only need to do this with clients I haven't yet worked with or haven't yet established a relationship to, because there are plenty of clients who come to me that I know where I have a relationship with that person and don't need to start from ground zero. I don't need to create this system in that place, but I need to evaluate it once it's had a chance to run. So how often you evaluate your systems kind of depends on what the system is, what this thing you're creating is designed to do. But you do need to evaluate them. Just like that thing I mentioned with Applejack and My Little Pony, she hadn't evaluated her system in a really long time because she was solving problems she didn't have anymore. And we all do that to ourselves. We all do that to ourselves. So we need to find ways to stop it from happening. So spend time evaluating your systems before they get to a crisis point, and check in with yourself. Weekly, quarterly, monthly, yearly, whatever it looks like. But check in with yourself about those systems and whether or not they're working and doing their jobs. The last thing we want to look at is resilience. Resilience isn't pushing through when you are at catastrophic failure. That's not resilience. Resilience is the thing that allows you to get sick, but not have everything go to pieces while you're sick. It's building those pieces into your system that accommodate for, as much as we can, real life realities. I know that I'm going to have probably X number of migraine days per week. And I need to have my system set up that if I have a migraine day on a day that I'm supposed to be doing something else, I have to accommodate for that. That's not a choice that I'm making. I don't get to decide when I have a migraine day. My brain gets to decide when I have migraine days. And so my systems have to be resilient and able to absorb that situation without going to pieces. Because if I can't take a day and recover from a medical problem that is very real and very common for me, then I am obviously not doing what I need to be doing. Because the system will fail. I have those medical problems regularly. So I need to design something that's accommodating of that. Resilience is building in these spaces where we can handle stuff that goes wrong. Creating a system isn't about trying to control every little piece. It's not about trying to chart everything down to the last decimal necessarily. Some people really like that. I'm convinced those people are crazy, but you know what? If it works for them, I'm not here to judge them. I'm here to give them some serious side-eye, but if it works for them, it works for them. I respect it. However, you can't control every single piece of your life because our lives are largely dictated by external things sometimes. If we have partners, it might be dictated by our partner's needs. It might be dictated by our children's needs, our pets' needs, the state of the world at large, weather, whatever it is that we are dealing with. A lot of it's outside our control. So we develop these systems that accommodate for that lack of complete control over everything. It's not that we are developing these systems to never struggle again, because that's unrealistic. We are going to struggle. We are going to have times that things are tough. We are going to have really difficult things in our lives that we have to manage and mitigate and deal with and get through. That is, unfortunately, the nature of life. That is an impossible thing to avoid. But if we do create systems that work and account for those realities, we can prevent ourselves from going to pieces in the future. I think the last things I want to leave you with before we do the outro and I get, whatever my personal update's going to be this week, the thing I want to leave you with is all of these systems have to work for you. Spend some serious time thinking about and developing things and testing them. Use the scientific method on it. Hypothesis, testing, result, right? Test out these systems, see what works, see what doesn't. Live as you while you're doing this. Don't be like, well, this is the version of me that should be showing up. No, this is the version of me that I have today. I am the only version of myself that I have at any given moment. I cannot be somebody I'm not in any moment. And trying is what put me in inpatient therapy last year. So, learn from me so you don't end up the same place I did, that you can only be you. You can only do what you can do. And build your systems around that. Build in that resiliency. Give yourself space. Use whatever tool you need to create a system that works for you. I will admit that I have used ChatGPT to help me organize systems and come up with ideas and plans, accommodating my disabilities and so on, dealing with my brain fog. I have used ChatGPT for that. I don't use it raw. What I do is I take what it spits out at me and then I work on it and create it something that works for me. But that is not an unreasonable use of AI if you can't get your head around something. If you have a person that you can do that with, great, but not all of us have that luxury. There are ways you can spend some time on YouTube studying other people's systems. You can spend some time, I've got books back here about systems in writing and publishing and studying the different things that are out there and different options, different things that you can use to expedite stuff. My friend Shel Honaker does this amazing work with automations. Not all of it is AI, to be clear. She does use AI, but there's a lot of other stuff like Zapier and other things that she automates a lot of these tasks in ways that honestly is magic. She's the one who introduced me to Notion, which has become my nerve center, my life. I use Notion for everything. And I spent way too many hours this weekend developing a pantry list and templates in Notion for myself regarding food storage, and I blame her entirely for that because she got me into Notion. It's her fault. But there's systems and so many different tools and things we can use to create things that are going to work for us. So spend some time testing what works for you. And if something doesn't, it's okay to put it down. It's okay to be like, well, that didn't work. If you try a system and discover that it is absolutely going to make things worse, you didn't fail, you learned something. Just like the old quote of Thomas Edison only discovered, 200 and something or other ways not to make a light bulb, in addition to making the light bulb. As much as I know Tesla, Edison, blah, 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 sure. But the quote is still my point here. You can discover all the ways that aren't going to work, and you will have discovered the ways that don't work. And as you discover the ways that don't work, you know you don't need to try that again. You can try the new things. So keep at it. Be tenacious. You can do it over time. Like I said, I'm taking 3 months this year to really evaluate everything and spend some time digging into that and fixing things that didn't work for me. Do that. And it will help you not end up in that place of misery in the future. There's no morality attached to having burned yourself out. You are not bad. You are not weak. You are not lazy. You didn't just not try hard enough. Your systems did not work. Or, for some people, you didn't have a system. And you just been white-knuckling it this entire time, praying to God that something works. And while that is certainly not the most healthy and long-term productive approach, that doesn't suggest you're a lazy person. That suggests that you are really dedicated and worked really hard and just maybe didn't know what you needed to know. So we learn. And we can prevent ourselves from going back into that place that we've been. And we can get out of this and stay out of this with any luck. We may have times when we end up flirting with burnout in the future because our life changes in maybe ways that we didn't anticipate, and suddenly all the everything goes to pieces. That does happen. This is reality. Sometimes things just fall apart. And it's not always our fault. Sometimes things fall apart because of the economy, of things that are so much bigger than us. But when that happens, we might experience some burnout because we've been trying to figure things out and figured out how to survive through that mess this whole time. That's the thing. But we can spend time thinking about what we can control, what we can fix, what we can protect ourselves with, and use that. That is how you burnout-proof your life. Or so I'm telling myself. Thank you for being with me on Authority this week. I really appreciate your time. We look at the publishing industry with humor, with heart, with experience that I'm trying to make sure you learn from because I didn't. And if you found today's episode helpful, please share this with somebody you think needs to hear it. Tag me in socials, leave me comments, whatever it is that you do. Engage with me somehow so you keep seeing this and so that I can keep making these because I really want to help people. And I think I can. Your voice matters, your story matters, and if you are still wearing pants at this point in the process, you are ahead of the curve because there's a reason I only record from here up because pants, no. This week, I am hoping that I can spend some more time not at work because we ordered a new bed. I am not used to spending this much money at once. I'm very anxious about this, but we ordered a brand new bed, and they're coming in to take out the old one and put the new one in place, but unfortunately that also means that they need to be able to get the old one out, so I have to clean and reorganize my bedroom, and I don't want to. So that's what I'm doing this week. I am frantically trying to clean things that I probably should have cleaned before, but they'll be clean now. Speaking of systems, I'm going to try and set up something that actually works for me because with the back injury I've been dealing with, folding laundry hasn't been happening. So I've just been like, well, you live there now. We've been like, that's why everything I have is rumpled and so on. It's clean, it's just wrinkled. So there's an example of real life kind of infringing on things. And I'm hoping that the new bed will help with some of the pain and help with some of the sleep issues. It should, because the bed we have now is not good. We're not going to talk about it, but the new one should be helpful, and I'm trying to psych myself up to do all the cleaning I have to do in order to make sure it gets there. So that's what I'm doing this week. I hope your week is less exciting, but also more exciting in a good way. And I will see you again next week here on Authority. Take care, friends. I hope you have a great week. Stay safe out there. The world is the world lately.